Good afternoon, or good evening, or good morning, whenever you're watching this. This is my second video of the year. I did promise that I was going to be making more videos, and I'm jumping straight in. I said 2 a month, but this will actually be the next week that you'll see it from my first video, so I'm pretty proud of myself for that. If you're new here, my name's Kim, and I make videos around lifestyle, business, family, travel, everything. If you are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any future videos. Today's video is going to be my favourite books of 2023. So I mentioned in the last video that I do enjoy reading. I don't get to read as much as I would like to. I am pretty busy, we've got 2 small kids, I'm always knackered, so I do read when I can, but you know, life. So last year I managed to read a grand total of 27 books. My Goodreads says 26, but it was actually 27 because one of the books didn't get the little review date, so it was 27 in the end. So I'm going to go through my top 10, the ones that I enjoyed the most. These are going to be in no particular order. There's a mix of genres, so if you are a genre like me, then you might enjoy this. I have always recommended things on Instagram, and people have said they've really enjoyed my recommendations, so I thought it would be nice to do a video about it, a more long form video, because that's what we're going for. So I'm going to preface this by saying as well that I am a Kindle girl. I love my Kindle, it lives by my bedside. I also use the Kindle app all the time, so I use my Kindle app when the kids are going to bed, if they're having car naps, anything where I can just whip it out, and instead of doom scrolling I will open a book. Oh, that's the aim. Anyway, that is the aim. I have read some physical books this year, but I do find, or last year, but I do find the Kindle so much easier for this stage of my life. I'm also quite good at giving books away now, so if I have read it, even if I loved it, it will be sent to the charity shop or given to a friend. I will say I do have some books that are special and I keep them, but yeah, I'm quite good at getting rid of them now. Decluttering. We don't need books that we've read hanging around. The first book on my list is Carcosa is Back. It's from Taylor Jenkins Reid, part of the Taylor Jenkins Reid universe. I first started reading the universe back in 2022. I started with Malibu Rising. I wanted a summary book, and that was recommended to me, and since then I was hooked. I then went and read Daisy Jones, obviously, because who hasn't at this stage? And yeah, I was a fan. So as soon as Carcosa came out, I picked that up on audiobook. I have an Audible subscription, so I try and work my way through at least one a month if I can. I have a bit of backlog, but yeah, I thought it made quite a good audiobook. I always listen on like 1.5 speed or 1.2 speed, anyone else? The book itself is about Carcosa, obviously. She is a tennis player and she's making a comeback. So she features in Malibu Rising earlier on in her career. And this is when she has been retired for a while and she wants to make a comeback in the world of tennis, and it follows her kind of story and journey through that process. If you're a fan of tennis, you definitely need to read this one. I am a fan of tennis, not that I watch it as much as I used to, but I do like the sport, and so I found it quite interesting. If you're just a fan of the Taylor Jenkins Reid universe, then give that a read as well. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's got mixed reviews, but it is one of my top books of 2023. The next book on my list is Shrines of Gaiety by Kate Atkinson. Now, I know a lot of people are big fans of Kate Atkinson. I have never read anything else by her. This was my first foray into her books. Again, I did this on audiobook. I found it another really good audiobook. It was a story that kind of gripped me and I wanted to keep listening. The book itself is set in London in 1926, which is quite an interesting era if you're into kind of the First World War and the like roaring 20s. It's a good book for that, kind of getting that vibe. It focuses around the Coker family and the matriarch Nellie Coker, and about how they run their businesses in London, in Soho, and kind of all about their lives. There's a mix of their history, where Nellie Coker came from and how she got to be where she is, and then about the children, how they're trying to make kind of their own way in life, and some of them are failing and some of them are doing quite well. And then there are elements of crime, there are murders. Yeah, there's a bit of everything in there. The next book we have is Clytemnestra. So I have already mentioned in my previous video that I am a big fan of Greek myth retellings. So Clytemnestra, if you're not aware, is the wife of Agamemnon. She is the sister of Helen of Troy and the mother of Iphigenia? One moment. Iphigenia. So Iphigenia is the one that gets, the daughter that gets, I'm not gonna ruin it. I'm not gonna ruin it for you because you may not know the myth. You may not know the myth, so I'm not gonna tell you anything about it. Suffice to say, if you are into Greek myth retellings, this is a really interesting one. It kind of tells it from Clytemnestra's point of view, and that's a point of view that we don't really see much of. She kind of always fades into the background with having a famous husband and a famous sister. But it is a very interesting story and it's very well written. I enjoyed this thoroughly. The thing I like about the Greek myth retellings is I find they make them very accessible and they make them more interesting. It can get quite heavy to read the real myth, like the old-fashioned, the oldie-worldy myth, but the way that the Greek myth retellings are done are very clever and it kind of keeps it in a modern fiction realm, if that makes sense. The next book we have is The Familiars by Stacey Halls. So I am new to Stacey Halls, but I ended up listening to 2 of her books this year and will be continuing to listen to and read her books because I found this one of my favourite books of the year. It's not in my top 3. I do have a top 3, which were the ones that I gave 5 stars on Goodreads, but it was very close. I really enjoyed this book. This was another audiobook for me, and I really enjoyed the narration on this one. It was in like a Lancashire accent, so pretty close to us. It was based around the witches of Pendle and the whole stories of there, and it had me down Wikipedia rabbit holes searching about the witch trials and learning about the Devises and the whole stories of the misjustices that were done to these women back in 1626, I believe. Yeah, very interesting part of history that I think is not talked about enough. I learnt a lot about the Lancashire Assizes and the witches from Cumbria and stuff like that. I say witches, these were like wise women who knew how to heal, but because they were women, they were obviously branded as witches and not just healers. So The Familiars follows the story of Fleetwood Shuttleworth, who is not a noble woman, but quite a high up woman. She's quite young. She has had trouble with pregnancy loss and baby loss, and it tells her story basically and how she links to a local wise woman healer, and follows the kind of historical events. So it links very closely to everything that was going on, and it's kind of a story told around the actual events, which is interesting. So it's kind of fictionalized history. So the people that feature in this story are actually real, which I found really interesting. And while their story is not fully confirmed, it's like a fictionalized event. It could have happened. You can actually go and visit the hall, the Gawthorpe Hall, which is the place where Fleetwood Shuttleworth lives. You can go and visit that. It's a National Trust property and it's something I am going to do this year because it's pretty close to us, so why not? So if you are interested in that kind of history, it is definitely worth a read. I recommended this on Instagram and everybody that listened to it fell in love with it as well. I would recommend the audiobook and enjoy. My next book is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. One moment, I need a drink before talking about this one. So I love romance novels. I love them. I will devour a Maria McFarlane novel in a day. I am a big fan. Like I say, I like so many different genres. Romance is up there. I love it. It is an escape. It's a palate cleanser. It's something I will read in between bigger books. Ali Hazelwood has forged herself a little niche, which I know she's now diverted from with her recent release. I think it's she's going down the paranormal route. But the few that I've read of hers are all centred around scientists and academics, which is funny because my partner he's an astrophysicist, a doctor of astrophysics, so he has worked in academia for quite a lot of his career, and it just makes me laugh because it's just imagining these kind of scenarios with his colleagues. Anyway, So Love theoretically focuses around the standard dynamics in a romance book. There's a boy, there's a girl, and they butt heads, and then they butt butts. No, seriously, okay. Yeah, it's a love story, basically. There's a theoretical physicist and a practical physicist, and they have differing opinions, mixed signals, mixed messages happen, things get lost in translation, things are just not said. It's light, it's fun. There's at least one sex scene. Definitely pick this up if you want a nice beach read, or just a bit of an escape between your Greek mythology, murders, all that jazz. Give some romance a try. Next up we have Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. Now Natalie is one of my favourite Greek myth retellers. I read 2 of her books this year. This one pipped the post to the other one because I read this more recently. So Stone Blind follows the story of Medusa from her point of view. Thrilling, absolutely amazing, loved it. I'm obviously familiar with the Medusa story, as we all are. Hearing her backstory expanded on was really interesting. Hearing about her Gorgon roots, finding out how she was murdered. Yeah, thoroughly one of my favourite Greek myth retellings. I have recently finished another of Natalie's books, which is called Divine Might. I finished that last week on audiobook. Again, loved that one, and earlier in the year I read Children of Jocasta, which again was another amazing book that follows the Oedipus story. So yeah, I guess this is more of a author recommendation than just a book recommendation, but definitely Stone Blind is a brilliant first book to read if you are interested in Greek myth retellings. Obviously Medusa is a well-known character, so you can't really go wrong. You already know part of her story, so why not read it all? The next book we have is Between Us by Mary McFarlane. I've already mentioned I could devour her books in a day. Every time one comes out I have it on pre-order. Absolutely amazing romance novels. Always a nice twist on the story, always an interesting plot line, really well written characters, and yeah, a nice easy read. Hits the romance spot always. You can't go wrong. Definitely recommend all her books. Have read all her back catalogue. Very much a fan. So Between Us focuses on, I want to say Roisin, is that how you pronounce that name? And her relationship, and how she, I mean the blurb tells you this bit, so I'm not spoilering here, but she has a past, something from her past that her partner, who is a screenwriter, uses in one of his shows. So that breach of trust puts her relationship into turmoil, and you find out what happens. There's a group of friends there as well, and you see the different friend dynamics as they've gone from being university students, kind of all on the same level, to adults, and how their relationships have all changed going forward. It kind of all comes to a head in a country house at the start of the book. I say comes to a head at the start of the book. But like I say, Mary McFarlane knows how to write a character, and it's very interesting, and I think this one was set in Manchester. That's quite interesting for me because I went to university there, Adam went to university there, we were there at the same time obviously. Give it a read. Give a whole back catalogue a read if you haven't already and you're interested in a bit of romance. We are into the top 3, so I had 3 books that I gave 5 stars last year on Goodreads, and in no particular order, we're going to jump straight in with Lessons in Chemistry. Now I know everyone has read this book, very popular book, now a TV series on I think Apple TV. I haven't watched it, I don't subscribe to Apple TV, I've got enough subscriptions, I don't need any more, but I found this book really interesting. The book follows the life of Elizabeth Zott, who is a female chemist in the 1950s, 1960s, and it follows her life in terms of her struggles, her relationships, how she made it as a female in STEM, and again, a very interesting character. The characters in this book were well written. It's popular for a reason. I did this as an audiobook again, and 1.5 speed, absolutely raced through it because it was just so readable, listenable. If you haven't read it, give it a go. Not a super long book, easy to read, easy to listen, and a very interesting story. The next book, arguably my favourite of 2023, if I had to pick, it might be up there, is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I know this one has been talked about a lot as well. Again, it's popular for a reason. It's a really interesting book. I read this as an actual book. It follows the life of two friends from childhood through to adulthood, and features gaming as its main kind of subject. So Sam and Sadie are gaming designers. They have been friends since childhood. They became friends in a hospital. It follows their life through university. It shoots backwards and forwards. So you learn about the characters quite in depth. There are side players, NPCs, in this as well. So it's an interesting book. It's written from the different perspectives. You have chapters written from Sadie's point of view, from Sam's point of view, and then other people. If you have played a game in your life, you will find this interesting. You'll find it interesting as a book about people as well. I don't know why, but I'm thinking about it. It's giving me like Little Life vibes as well. I don't know why it's giving me Little Life vibes, but it kind of has that same character analysis in it, if that makes sense. Yeah, if you have not read this book yet, give it a go. It's popular for a reason. It's very readable, it's interesting, it keeps you gripped, and thoroughly recommend. My next book is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. As I said, I've been working my way through the Taylor Jenkins Reid back catalogue. I also read One True Loves last year. It was alright. The film was rubbish. It was not good. I enjoyed that one, but this one was far superior. So Seven Husbands, I always call it The Seven Lives or The Seven Wives. I don't know why. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was a very interesting book. Again, it's written within the Taylor Jenkins Reid universe. Some familiar characters crop up. You might remember, is it Mick Reaver from Malibu Rising, and I think he's also in Daisy Jones. He crops up in there. Apologies if the filming angle changed there, I just ran out of memory, so I've had to replace my memory card. So Evelyn Hugo is a movie star who started in the 1950s. It charts her life from how she got to Los Angeles and got started in the business. It's written from the perspective of her narrating her life story to a biographer, and there's a whole thing around that as well. But it's really interesting to see her story unfold through the decades and through the husbands. It's a very interesting book, very readable again. I read this as an actual physical book, and it was a page turner for me. So there you have it, my top 10 books of 2023. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any book recommendations for me based on what I've talked about today or what you have seen on my Goodreads, pop me a message below. If you are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!